Hello. So I'm out here on day 6 of the Think, Look, Protect project, which is this year in April of 2018, we're commemorating the fact that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I'm here in front of the Richmond, California police station protesting the fact that the officer who intook my case report when I came to report that I was raped in January 2014 was allowed to write, quote, a victim narrative, which ended up not reflecting the facts of the event that I translated to him in any way, shape, or form. And the flaws in that victim narrative, again, which I was not allowed to review, I did not have any control over its contents, was so different from the facts of what happened to me when I was raped in January of 2014, that put the nail in the coffin for my rapist to ever be brought to justice. So I've been standing here today for the last 6 hours with these signs. Because I've just spent the last 3 years working with the Richmond Police Department in an effort to get them to examine their protocols and training for intaking rape cases. Because this is a very complex emotional dynamic. Because, for instance, on January 2014, I was raped. I was reporting that in July of 2014, which is common to have a late report for rape and sexual assault victims. So when I finally walked through the door, this was actually the first time that I had ever told a stranger that I had been raped. And so I was crying, I was copiously crying and emotional during the time that I was with Officer Daniel Sanchez and telling a stranger and a man for the first time in my life that I had been raped. And so there was the emotional context, but also I'm a lawyer, I'm trained in communication. I brought in a pre-prepared written statement in an effort to bring clarity so that the description of the facts of the crime would stay consistent from intake all the way to if I had the opportunity to talk to the district attorney's office for the possibility of my rapist being arrested and keeping the citizens of Richmond, California and beyond safe. And none of that ever came to fruition, and part of that was because of the inaccurate victim narrative that Officer Daniel Sanchez was allowed to write and submit without me participating in it at all. And so I've been working for the past 3 years to get the Richmond Police Department to examine their training and intake protocols, or their protocols for intaking rape cases, and having meetings. I've dealt with Sergeant Matthew Stonebreaker, Lieutenant Sean Pickett, who has since retired. I've also met with both the Assistant Chief Biza French and also Chief Alwyn Brown. And so think of that. That's years and years of emails and meetings and talking to try to say that if you do not let a rape victim have control of her own story, have control of her own narrative, that not only do you damage the ability for the district attorney to be able to prosecute the case properly, because when you get different statements of facts, right, that in and of itself damages the ability for the district attorney to have the rapist arrested, right? So it damages the legal case, and as a culture, we really have to care about that. But second, it also damages the rape victim's experience of going to the police. It means that she has to walk away not even feeling remotely heard. And on top of that, when an officer has 100% control of something which is titled the victim narrative, rather than the victim themselves, that robs the victim of their voice. It's having their voice stolen and co-opted by entities that are basically all male, that have made a vow that they are going to serve and protect. I mean, some people say, like, Unmini, this is so upsetting. You were very upset, obviously, when you were raped, and you're very upset now by Officer Daniel Sanchez being given the power to speak for you, to tell your story for you without even your participation. And what I said is, the man who raped me, he had never made a vow to serve and protect. And that's its own situation to deal with. But Officer Daniel Sanchez absolutely did. And every single person who walks through the door as a part of the Richmond Police Department They have taken a vow to serve and protect. And what they did instead, when I went to say to them, you have a rapist that lives here, you have a rapist that works here, don't you want to do something about it? Is there was a system that didn't allow there to be any chance for my rape case to be prosecuted, but also I felt disrespected. I felt maligned. The aspects that Officer Daniel Sanchez put in my, quote, victim narrative was really insulting and really upsetting, and actually even maligned my family. So I want to expose people to the idea that if we want women to report, if we want things to change, our police departments have to be able to at least do things like have training and protocols in place so that they can get our story straight, whether we're crying or being emotional or whatever it is that obstructed Officer Daniel Sanchez from doing his job that day. And so anyway, remember, I'm not being unreasonable about this, because I did just spend the last 3 years having meetings and trying to get them to realize how destructive this is. Because when I say to my friends, hey, I'm thinking of protesting, what they say is, Unmini, this has been so difficult for you to try to help the police department properly do their job. Reporting is a joke. And every rape victim and every sexual assault victim is better served by not reporting. And you are proof of that. And the whole reason I went and reported was to be part of the system. The whole reason I went and reported was to do whatever I could in this cultural, just terrible situation and organization that we have for rape victims. We literally basically know that rapists and sexual assault perpetrators are going to not get punished. But what we need a reporting friendly culture. We need a police department that's able to do their job to the extent that if someone walks in like myself and reports a rape, even though the expected happened and the rapist continues to go free, that we at least feel heard. That I can walk away and tell other rape victims, you should report. There's aggregate of the claims. There's the idea that if more women report, that maybe a rapist will be properly prosecuted. Well, what does that mean? That means they have to get the facts of the case correct. So if they're not doing that, not only do rape and sexual assault victims walk away completely feeling destroyed, because the police who are there to serve and protect them can't even listen enough to get their story straight. So they go away and tell their friends, don't even bother, the police don't even care about you. That makes our culture hostile to rape victims. And it makes an environment in which we can understand why every rape victim says, don't go to the police, they make it worse. And I want them to change that. And that's why after all these years of meetings and no one doing anything, I'm out here with my signs, trying in my small way to make a difference. So thanks.